Let's talk more about all of these developments and what they mean for Syria with Michael Stephens. He's a defense security expert from the Royal United Services Institute. Mr. Stephens, thank you so much for joining us. He doesn't have to ask, President Obama doesn't have to ask permission from Congress. Fair enough, he wants to build consensus. But how do you see it? Is he just buying time?
There is a little bit of that. I think it's important to note that it does sort of push back the time that he has to make a decision by a few days, which gives him some options and some chances to assess what support he has in American domestic politics at the moment. Obviously, there's some problems there with a number of representatives against the idea of a strike against Syria. So he's got some work to do there. I mean, he's really set out his stall. I think the speech was quite aggressive in its tone, but at the same time, he was stepping back from taking a decision that he himself could have done. And the early reactions in the region here are quite negative, actually, in that I saw some Emirati academics and some Saudis who were commenting that Obama appeared extremely weak and stepping back from what they perceived as an obligation.
And what about reaction within the Assad government? How do you think that they'll see this move? As you mentioned, the speech was aggressive, but effectively he is stepping back.
Yes, he is. And actually, it also sort of allows them some breathing space. I think, you know, before the speech happened, I was talking to a couple of people here who said maybe the best thing to do would be for the US to have this looming threat of strikes hanging over the Assad regime, so his army wouldn't be able to operate as effectively, because obviously troops wouldn't be stationed in barracks, artillery would be moved into positions where it could be hidden away from airstrikes, and that would actually degrade Assad's ability to operate against the Free Syrian Army in the coming weeks. So almost you could sort of play him off and play his fear against him, but actually that doesn't seem to be the case now. It's clear that there's not going to be any US-led military action before September 9th, and even then it may not even be September 9th. It could be a month from now, which is something that Obama himself had mentioned.
And if and when the US does decide to strike the Assad government, I mean, what do you think that those military options will be? What do you think the US is considering right now?
Well, they've said very clearly a number of times this is going to be a limited strike. So it's going to be basically military facilities. Now, if you're going to use Tomahawk cruise missiles, not to get too technical, but they can only carry about 370 pounds worth of explosives on them. They're not high-impact bombs that can come from an aircraft. So you're not going to be causing widespread damage and destruction against civilian targets. Of course, you want to minimize collateral in any way that you can, because if civilians are killed by airstrikes, it looks very bad for the United States. But I think right now, obviously, there's a target list that's been drawn up. That's not going to be disclosed to the public, but it will be military in nature and focusing specifically on Bashar al-Assad's ability to deliver rockets and artillery shells, which are the main vehicles for using chemical weapons.
Michael Stephens from the Royal United Services Institute, thank you so much for sharing your views with us. And remember, you can stay up to date with all the news on Syria on our website. There's a special page with in-depth features and analysis, and also a live blog with all the latest updates. That's all at aljazeera.com.